Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I asked to speak actually before this meeting today because I wanted to come to you not only as a legislator but also as a constituent of Oneida County and particularly a constituent of county executive. Sometimes we forget we're not just politicians, we're also constituents. And I have some things that I prepared to speak on, but I do want to respond to, I see that the good judge's law clerk today came, and I tell you, they say that I'm animated when I speak. Boy, that was a nice show. But I want to remind you, Mr. Clerk, first of all, when I see the ghosts of politics past here, and if it's to intimidate anybody, sadly mistaken. And if what you think is we're questioning any integrity of or services of the Insight House, again, you're sadly mistaken. Everything you said, I agree with most of it, although it's irrelevant to the argument and to the debate that we're trying to have and the very serious questions that we're trying to raise. One of those questions that I began to raise when we decided to extend this lease out till 2033 at $1 per year, a county-owned building that the taxpayers paid nearly $3 million to purchase and then renovate, the former Potter School building. I came across from who you speak highly of, and I know was a very qualified man, Paul Vitagliano. Came across a letter that was written because I want to remind you, when you say they've been around for 38 years, 1971, a lot of people it confuses people because they were actually a county department at one time. Although they were called the Insight House, it was a county department like any other department. It's been a nonprofit, which is, I think, a little misleading when they even say on their website that they've been around that long. Because in the current capacity, other than they kept the name, they've been around since 1997 or 96, I think, when the lease was in 97. I think they were actually privatized 96. Nonetheless, I come across a letter. First letter was written by this current chairman, Jerry Farini, and then Majority Leader Robert Julian, expressing concerns to then County Executive Ray Meyer that they were very concerned about the privatization of Insight House. And then I found the response letter from Paul Vitagliano. And in it, he states, during discussions with members of the board's Ways and Means Committee prior to the purchase of the Potter property. Now let me remind you, back up here, this is during the process before you were privatized and when it was ongoing. And they were talking, this Chairman Farini, and Majority Leader Julian had questioned the idea of rent. So, again, he says, during discussions with members of the board's Ways and Means Committee prior to the purchase of the Potter property, it was agreed that the cost of purchasing the property would be repaid via rental of the facility, utilizing the $46,660 annual county contribution to the program until the debt was retired. Insight House has been assessed a rental of $4,427.33 per month, or $53,128 per year since 1993, plus a debt service charge of $39,635 in 1994. Somehow that went from that to a couple months later, the lease being signed at $1 per year. The CEO at the time, Mr. Vitagliano, had no problem paying rent. I was on the phone last night with lawyers from Oasis, two of them, Tricia and Sarah, for about 2 hours on a conference call. And by the end of the call, their advice to me was to go to the Attorney General or file an Article 78. They said that it was very unique, the situation here in Oneida County. They said they've never heard of anything like it across the state. They said they did take into account the concerns of the CEO of a major substance abuse agency not having a higher education. They did take major concern to the fact that Section 41 of New York State mental hygiene law was not followed in the appointment of our very own mental health director. As a matter of fact, the county executive appointed his own 3-member panel, 2 of which consisted of service providers that have contracts with the county, Upstate Cerebral Palsy and Insight House, who actually ended up choosing the person that is supposed to oversee them in those contracts. Again, these two attorneys, Tricia and Sarah, feel free to call. I'll give the number. I spoke to last night, advised me that similar to the process going on with the governor's appointment to the lieutenant governor, I need to file some sort of Article 78 action or go to the Attorney General. Those are their words, not mine. My job is to ask these questions, and my job is to pursue these, get the answers for them. She also advised me that if they are on, I guess, and you guys will know better, some kind of non-deficit budget, which means if we charge them $60,000 per rent per year, which is all this is about. This is about the contract, not about their services again. So playing to people's emotions is not going to work. If we charge them $60,000 per year and that hurt them, say, or they went into a deficit or whatever, Oasis makes that up. Oasis pays for that. Her argument was, well, you're still not saving anybody because taxpayers pay it. I said, well, let me, to the contrary. I said, I'm actually a local legislator. As a county legislator, we complain constantly about the unfunded mandates by the state of New York. Medicaid coming to mind, of course. Why not take a chance right now where we could shift that burden to the state? So to argue that $60,000 a year is going to hurt Insight House, according to the two attorneys from Oasis, that's simply not true. I also have several nonprofits in my district, and my phone was ringing off the hook when they read about this article and about the dollar lease, when they've lost their state funding, when they're out there putting their feet to the ground and they're building, and not to say that any nonprofit, you just do different services. And Insight House does a wonderful job, and the services are needed. That is not what's in question right now. What's in question is a lot of the ethical concerns. For example, Insight House's attorney is also a contracted attorney for the county. The chairman of the board today is a law clerk. Had to recuse himself from one matter. It's not unheard of that if we bid out, we may lose, Insight House can lose a bid. They lost a bid in Herkimer County. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to belabor this issue because I know it's going to continue to come up, and I'm not going to stop until I get answers, and I'm not going to simply sit here and argue back and forth or act like I'm being intimidated by the board showing up today. We can certainly get into a myriad of other issues if we ever want to go down that route and we want to carry this on.